Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we've got the second part of this 5 and 5. So the first part yesterday was 5 fragrances that I originally hated and now I love. And this version is going to be 5 fragrances I originally love and now I hate. Hate's a strong word. Dislike is probably a better word. I also have a bonus fragrance just like I did yesterday for you. But I have a special feature on top of all that because we have an unboxing. Yes, an unboxing. This came from Manly Sense, who writes on my channel regularly. My channel, Rich's channel. He's a great lad, and I'm so happy that he was willing to work with me on some of this. So let's open this bad boy up, shall we? The parcel traveled 10,000 kilometers in 8 days, I think it was. So hell of a trip it's had. And let's pull this stuff out, shall we? Let's see what we've got here. Oh yeah, that's some good packing there, Keith. Whoa. All right. I will use this packing to resend someone else something one day. So I won't throw it away, but I will get it out of the way. Okay, here we go. Ah, yes. And he was kind enough to send me a sample of something. Let's see what I got. Let me get all this packing out of the way. I guess I should have started opening this before the video, but here you go. Let's do sample number 1 first. What are you? What are you, sample number 1? Ah! Okay, here we go. Ettore Bugatti 1992. That'll be an interesting one. Smells amazing from the atomizer. Let's see. Bugatti. Is it Bugatti? Let's see. B-U-G-G-A-T-T-I. 1992. Here we go. It was last marketed by Diana da Silva. Citrus woody, bergamot, grapefruit, mandarin orange, neroli, mugwort, geranium, clove, jasmine, coriander, lavender, nutmeg, rose, hyssop, cinnamon, amber, benzoin, musk, patchouli, Russian leather, vanilla, and vetiver. Sounds amazing. I mean, for a freshie, I can smell it from the atomizer. It definitely seems like a freshie I would be willing to wear during the warmer months. So thank you very much for that, Keith. That's very kind of you, mate. Let's see what sample number 2 is. This bubble wrap, it's definitely well wrapped. It was not going anywhere during the trip, I'll tell you that. I need my handy dandy unboxing knife for this. Ah! Okay, here we go. Ah, yes, this is a good one. Missoni Womo, 1983. How about that? Oh, I can't wait to dive into that. These will make great little early impressions for my channel. Thank you, Keith. Thank you very much. Cannot wait to dive into those. Missoni Womo, 83. Ah, yes, I almost had a chance to buy this from Amouage, but I passed on it. Leathery, spicy, galbanum, juniper, bergamot, lemon, basil, jasmine, patchouli, coriander, clove, cinnamon, rose, vetiver, cedarwood, cistus, ambergris, leather, oak moss, frankincense, musk, and tonka. Smells like my kind of fragrance. Sounds like my kind of fragrance. I will put it on the early impression list. Now let's get to the actual reason that I ended up buying these from Keith. The first is that he had an unopened bottle of Daniel Hechter Caractére, which I really fell in love with when I got this 30 ml from Amouage. and I mentioned it many a times recently, but here it is again. So this little 30 ml I got, and I said, man, it's definitely worth buying a full bottle. And he happened to have an unopened one, so what a perfect little backup to store under lock and key. And this is the Edition Speciale, but it doesn't matter, it's the same thing. And so it's unopened. It's the short ingredient list vintage. So you know, if I ever buy a backup bottle, it's a fragrance that I really love. And so that is Daniel Hechter Caractére. And then the one that I did not have, that I was having a hard time finding from a respectable source, and apparently he had a couple backups of this and was kindly willing to part with one for me. This is called Weil Parfum, which I have actually a Weil fragrance, and it's called Kipling. So there is their other fragrance from the brand that I really like, Kipling. Parfums Weil. And so this is Parfum, which came out in 80... W-E-I-L. Weil Parfum came out in 1980. Long discontinued. Lavender, bergamot, aldehydes, rosemary, lemon, basil, mugwort, geranium, jasmine, clary, sage, carnation, labdanum, leather, moss, tonka bean, vetiver, and cedarwood. Sounds like my kind of fragrance. Even the new bottles are not wrapped. So there's no wrapping on. They didn't used to wrap their bottles. So, I mean, look at the condition of the box. He obviously stored it in pristine condition. Even the corners aren't even bent. So someone takes good care of their fragrances. And, of course, it's the short ingredient list. Oh, you want ingredients? How about fragrance? Does that cut it for you? I love the old days. I wish I could go back. 6LH is the batch code stamped into the box. They even did that back then. So let's pull this bad boy out. Let me show you the bottle. And then we'll get to the video of the day. There she is. Look at that. How 80s is that? We were talking about Ted Lapidus Parfum yesterday on the stream with Rich Mitch. And he was saying that even the red of the Ted Lapidus bottle looks 70s or 80s. And it's the same thing. Even the red here looks vintage. But I love the design. It's very clean. It is a splash, which I don't really care. I'll just decant it. Oh yeah, this is good stuff. I can't wait to wear it. I wore the Dunhill Blend 30 to bed last night, and I have to tell you, it is absolutely amazing. It only lasted 4 hours or so on my skin. It was already fading by the time I passed out. But man, I would just reapply that, and with 250 ml, I can just douse myself in it. That Dunhill Blend 30, while it lasts, is absolutely stunning. It's an eau de toilette. But yes, I cannot wait to dive into this. I'll decant some of this tonight. Maybe wear it tonight to bed. We'll see. So thank you again, Keith. I very much appreciate it, my friend. We will put you up here with your friend Kipling. Okay. So real quick, I'm going to do scent of the day, and then we'll jump into the whole point of the video. Scent of the day is Suga Parfums, TSVGA. Whoops, I guess I should show you the right way. TSVGA. I think he pronounces it Suga, and it's Fiona. So I wore this because last night on the stream, Alan Hansen was saying that he didn't really care for Fiona too much, that he thought it was heavy-handed, and it is heavy-handed, but there's something about the mixture of the oud, the florals, and the animalics in this that I just absolutely go gaga for. It's it has so many animalics. I've read it on the channel many a times before. It's got everything from muskrat, skunk accord, goat hair tincture, 3 types of oud. It has castoreum, real civet, 3 types of ambergris, different types of hyraceum, which is African stone. It has the hyraceum and the hyraceum absolute. I mean, if you can think of an animalic ingredient, it's in here. I just love it. Oh, There's just something about that animalic profile that I just go crazy for. So that's my scent of the day. So let's do the five fragrances that I initially loved and now I hate. Hate is a strong word. Again, just dislike is probably a better word. If you like these fragrances, please don't stop wearing them because I said I don't like them. Wear what you love. Forget what everyone else says. There are no experts in this. This is just, you know, opinions. It's like picking a favorite color, like Eugene says. So the first one is a scent that came out from the house of MDCI. If you know what's coming, you know, you probably won't be surprised if you know my taste. This is a 2005 release. Stephanie Bacouche is the parfumer, and it's called Invasion Barbare. So this is my bonus feature. Yesterday, my bonus feature of a fragrance that I didn't like at first, and now I love is Chamade. That fragrance has really grown on me. I have the EDT, the vintage EDT, and oh god, Fiona is... So, the thing I don't like about Invasion Barbare is it has this almost overly done smoothness. So there's zero sharp. The thing I don't like about it is the thing that other people might actually love about it, because it's totally smooth. You know, it's almost boringly smooth, if you will. And then the dry down, you know, the opening is the part that I actually kind of like, because it brings in this violet leaf that kind of adds a little bit of, just a touch of, it starts to, it almost tricks you. Like it starts to feel like it's going to get interesting, and then it just kind of turns boring for me. And so Luca Turin gave this 5 stars, and everyone just went out and bought it because he said so. But he loves these type of scents. These barbershop scents are some of his favorites. So if you know my channel and the things that I talk about and love, right? Leather scents are a very easy sell for me. I love leather scents, even when they're probably not done very well. I'm just a sucker for them. You know, I mentioned so many leather scents over this last year that is, you know, a love for me may not be a love for you. For Luca Turin, it's barbershop scents. He loves stuff like Bois de Portugal, New York Intense, Invasion Barbare, you know, that kind of stuff. That's his jam, right? And so he, I think, is a little too kind on the barbershop scents, in my opinion. This is it's a scent that I've kind of grown to dislike as I've grown to love MDCI's other offering, which is Chiffre Palatin. This with the old orange juice, the vintage orange juice, because the new one is like really clear white. You know, it's not as dark looking. There was an argument about reformulation with the founder of the brand and I think one of the bloggers, I forget which one, but you know, for me, I've just grown to love the complexity of MDCI Chiffre Palatin and kind of the boringness, if you will, of Invasion Barbare. I mean, some people will say it's a perfect work scent. It's a perfect, you know, when you don't want to stand out from the crowd, you don't want to wear something like animalic, like Fiona I'm wearing today, you know, might put someone off if you're meeting new friends, new clients, new associates, new people in your life, and you want to just kind of wear something that's safe and easy to wear. Invasion Barbare is an easy reach for them. For me, it's just too boring of perfumery for me nowadays. With the way that my journey has evolved, you could say, over the last decade, I much would rather wear something like Chiffre Palatin or Fiona, or, you know, some of the vintages that I've been going on and on about that I never get bored of. You notice that I never come and say, oh, something like Furio got boring to me. No, those old fragrances that have character, shout out to Daniel Hechter for the great name. These kind of fragrances that had character, they never get boring to me. You know, they never seem like the dry downs are bland or uninspired or, you know, that kind of stuff. And you'll notice that the entire list is niche. Okay, so the entire list, this whole thing is niche. And that just goes to kind of, I think, solidify the way that I feel about niche fragrances right now at this point in my journey. So many of them are kind of like a scam to me. I feel like they're a scam. And Invasion Barbare is one. Even though I don't have a full bottle, I've got them decant. This is my first bonus inclusion. So So now let's do the top 5 for real. And again, every single one of these is niche. So let's go back to, first let's start with the house of Nishane. If you know my collection, I think you probably know what's coming. This is from 2019, so it's recently new, and it's a Cecile Zarokian creation. And the fragrance that we're going to talk about first is called Ani. Now, Ani is this vanillic, sweet, somewhat spicy, because they've used this Thai ginger note. So there's this gingery sweetness with some rose and blackcurrant and, you know, they say ambergris, but who knows. But it's that vanilla, generic vanilla. You know, some people compare this to fly spray. You know, the boring generic vanilla vibe gets thrown around with this a lot. And the further I've dived into the house of Guerlain, like, I bought this before discovering Metallica or Metalis. And, you know, if I could go back, I'd probably save the money on vanilla fragrances like Ani, or even the ones that I think are okay, like Eau Duel. I think that's a good fragrance, although it is a little bit boring, but it's that, you know, joust to the top of the mountain between incense and vanilla from Diptyque. Those kind of vanilla fragrances, stuff like this. I used to think this was, you know, this was a Fragcom darling when it came out in 2019. People called it the best vanilla of all time and this, that, or whatever. And, you know, now that I can smell more of those amber woody, generic vanilla molecules, it doesn't do it for me. I will still wear this. I'm not going to give it away. I don't sell fragrances normally. I keep stuff because I revisit them, and maybe I'll change my mind again. I used to love it. Now I hate it. But that's the thing about this journey, is your thoughts can change and evolve over time. That's why I never get upset if someone doesn't like a fragrance that I love or doesn't feel the same way that I do, that kind of thing. You know, I never take it personally, because everyone's nose processes and recognizes scent differently, and also depending on where you are in your journey, right? And so for me, this is just, this is like a social media hyped fragrance. You know, the YouTube crowd kind of really hyped this up, and I fell for the hype and I bought it. And you know, now it is it's a strong dislike, let's say. I don't think it's a very good fragrance. It has that gingery cake batter vibe. It almost reminds you of like a niche version of Jean-Paul Gaultier 2. This is like this cakey batter cupcake thing. This is like a niche version of that, with some extra ingredients added. But, you know, honestly, if I was going to wear a Cecile Zarokian, I'd much rather wear something like Private Label from Javoy or something like that. Ani just, you know, really, as the years went on, and I've owned this, you know, and I've occasionally worn it to bed and stuff like that, my interest in the fragrance has increasingly waned. So again, I don't like the word hate, but let's say it's turning into a strong dislike. I'm not thinking it's as good of a fragrance as I once did, and that's okay. It's okay to change your opinion on a fragrance. You know, you don't have to die on a hill just to prove that your opinion from a year or 2 or 3 or 5 ago is exactly the same. In fact, the people that do that are probably not telling you the truth, to be honest with you. People's opinions change. It's just how it is, especially with something as subjective as fragrance. Okay, so that was number 1. Number 2 on the list of fragrances that I used to love and now hate, or strongly dislike, if you prefer, is going to be Ormond Man. So as you can see, another niche, and this came out in 2004. Again, I don't think it's a bad fragrance. Same with Ani, same with Invasion Barbare. I don't think these are bad fragrances. It's just when I smell this, you know, when I initially smelled this, I bought this bottle 3 or 4 years ago. And when I initially smelled this, I was like, okay, that's really pleasant. I could totally see this being like an office wear type fragrance. And it is very pleasant. It's very nice. But I'm at the point where I don't want nice. You know, I don't want just generic nice. I want something that's going to wow me, that's going to challenge me, that's going to, you know, make me think, that's going to try to, you know, take time for me to dissect because there's different transitions and stuff like this. This just kind of goes into this peppery, spicy, amber woody thing, to be honest with you. And everyone says, well, Ormonde Jayne does this pink pepper note like no one else on earth. And I'm like, okay, is pink pepper worth $250? No, I don't think it is. And everything else I've smelled from the brand, I have some decants of some of the other ones. They all just seem kind of stale. They seem uninspired. You know, are they nice? Yes. Giza Schoen made this. And you can totally see his DNA. If you smelled some of the stuff from Clive Christian that he did from Clive Christian, this will smell very familiar to you. I easily could have put Clive Christian 1872 on here. That's one that also seems a little just bland and overpriced. And price does play a role. I mean, these niche fragrances are selling their product at a premium. And when you're paying a premium, you expect to get a premium product. And now that I've explored more and more of the whole fragrance spectrum, not just niche, not just designer, but vintage, you know, once you start exploring stuff like this, you realize that they're not actually giving you any more for your money. All they're doing is putting it in a fancy bottle and charging more, and you have this perceived increase in quality. When in reality, I don't think there is one. I think if this got put in a Versace bottle and sold at $50, no one would talk about it. Or they would do what they always do. They'd talk about it for a month or two, and then it would be forgotten, other than being on the random list that, you know, top 10 list that someone puts out. They would just forget about it. And, you know, these kind of niche houses, that's why I'm torn on, because is it nice? Yes. Is it a little different than what other people are going to smell like in the office? Maybe. But I'm not at the point where stuff like that moves me anymore. So when you spend this kind of money on a fragrance, obviously you're going to want to like it. You're almost going to force yourself to like it, right? So when you get it, you're going to talk about in your head even, oh yeah, you're going to try to convince yourself that you like it, but eventually you get to a point where you have to be real with yourself. And these are me kind of being real with where I'm at in my journey. Would I wear this still? Sure, absolutely, I would wear it. People may even give you a compliment on it, but honestly, I don't care about stuff like that. I don't wear fragrances for that reason. I wear them for me, and this just doesn't move me anymore. It just seems very bland and boring. And that whole shtick about there's oud in here, there's, you know, black hemlock, which is, here, I'll read you what they say. Infusion of oud oil, the world's most prized essence since time immemorial. Where's the bit about black hemlock? Yeah, they do list black hemlock. So one of the things that they kind of harped on is that black hemlock is this, you know, poisonous material if it's not used properly, and it's just, you know, it just seems like a shtick to me. Like, again, we're a mark, we're a sucker, we're to be sold to, we're to be, you know, we're to be told what to like because celebrities like Ormonde Jayne, or it's this high-class niche brand, and I go off of my nose, and the house just doesn't impress me anymore. And that's the thing about growth, is, like I said, you can grow into changing your ideas, and after smelling lots and lots of designer and vintage and stuff like that, these niche houses are starting to impress me less and less and less. And unfortunately, that's just the state of the fragrance industry. So this next one, number 3, I hinted at yesterday. If you watched my video of fragrances that I initially hated and now I love, Ankara Noir was on there. And that's one that you can actually pick up for $30. I think that's an absolute steal, and I think it's a better fragrance than even this, which is a $500 fragrance for 50 ml. This is Rojas Vetiver. Just the regular Vetiver Parfum pour Homme. Now, here's the thing about this. This is a Schiffer fragrance to me that uses some notes that try to extend the citrus dry down. And I've seen him do this in a couple of his compositions. So this is not unique to just the vetiver. He's used this note in a couple different compositions that he's put out. One is Oceania, which I have a decant of, I think. I'll talk about that soon. Another is Herod's Parfum, which I already did an early impression on. You can go watch that video if you'd like. And so this is a note that he's been using for a while now. And basically the whole idea of this, Litsia cubeba is the note, by the way. The whole idea of that note is it's a flower that smells like a citrus. So when you spray this, if you love that citrus opening, that just doesn't last because citruses are very volatile and they fly off of the composition very quickly, this will seem almost like a miracle to you because the citrus dry down just lasts and lasts and lasts. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of citruses. This is another one is it nice? Yes, it's very nice. But you know what? Guerlain's vetiver is very nice. Ankara Noir is a love for me. When I wear this, I'm always left wanting more. And I regret purchasing this. This is a regret purchase. Now, there are some Rojas I love. I bought Roja, Haut Luxe, or whatever you want to call it. That's really grown on me. I bought Great Britain, and I absolutely love Great Britain. It's one of my favorite leather fragrances of all time now. And I've mentioned all the ones I love. Fetiche is very similar to Bel Ami, which is my favorite fragrance of all time. It made my #1 spot in the top 100. But this is just, it really leaves me wanting. It's a little bit boring. It smells very similar to other compositions from Roja's line. I mentioned Herod's. You know, it smells very similar to L'Oscar Pour Homme. It has a similar DNA. Obviously, they each have their little intricate pieces, but it feels like they build like a chassis, and then they build a couple different cars on the chassis, if you will, or a couple different fragrances, and then they build another chassis over here, and they build a couple fragrances. This is their Middle Eastern Oud line. This is their exclusive Harrods, Goodman's, Bergdorf, and, you know, all this crap. And vetiver falls into that, the fresher, easier to wear stuff that someone's going to smell and go, wow, that's really pleasant and nice, and they're going to buy it because $500 means nothing to them. That's the people that Roja's aiming for here. But the scent itself, I don't think it can even compete with Ankara Noir, a $30 fragrance, to me, anyways. Is there labdanum and cistus and, you know, maybe some of that fake oak moss nowadays that everyone's using? Yes. Is it nice? Yes. Is it groundbreaking? Absolutely not. It's actually very boring. I'd much rather wear Diaghilev if you made me wear a Roja. And so, you know, initially I thought I really loved this, but now I'm learning that I don't. I'd just rather wear Guerlain's Vetiver or Ankara Noir, honestly. I would never tell anyone to go out and spend $500 on this fragrance. I think it is a bit of a sham. You know, it's a bit of a sucker's bet. And the fact that they're charging $500 because it's a Parfum, you know, maybe if I would have paid $250 for the Vetiver Eau de Parfum, now they discontinued that so they could issue the Parfum and hit you for $500. Which really is insane. There's no need for that. I'm sure the Eau de Parfum smelled very, very similar to this. Just like they did with Scandal, which is right there. That I have the Eau de Parfum. And I've smelled all three versions. I've smelled all three versions of the Vetiver as well. I'm sorry. I've smelled the Vetiver Cologne, the second version that they put out. Which is, the Parfum colognes to me are not good fragrances. I really disliked the Parfum Cologne even more than this. So that's my beef. I mean, you can see pricing does play into it. If you're paying $500 for something, this should be 10 or 20 times better than Ankara Noir, and it's not. In fact, I don't even think it's better. I mean, the bottle's better. The little crystals on the top that shine when you move it around are cool. But is the juice inside worth $500? No, it's very disappointing. So Rojas Vetiver is number 3 for me. Next, we're going to go to an Amouage. And this Amouage turned the tide on the house of Amouage for me. I used to be an Amouage fanboy, as you can see. All of my Amouages lined up down below. I've talked about it many a times. All the old Amouages from the Christopher Chong era. To me, Christopher Chong can do no wrong. Even when he does stuff that's absolutely off the wall crazy, it's very interesting. And he always wants to innovate. He wants to take the next step. He never wants to remake something he already did. I very much appreciate that. When the new guy came in, the very first thing he did, a flanker. He did a flanker of interlude. And I don't like the way that the house is going. This fragrance really marked the end of an era for me at Amouage, because when he came in, he did the flanker of interlude called Black Iris, which I now own, but I got discounted. I didn't pay full retail for that because I don't think it's worth full retail. And then he did 2 fragrances, which I skipped. He did Meander, and he did that Enclave. And I said, those aren't Amouages. They're not for me. When he did Boundless, I said, you know what? I'm going to take the leap. And I bought it. Same story. I tried to convince myself that I loved it. But in reality, I've come to the conclusion that I don't love this. I think this is probably one of the worst Amouage full bottles I own. Actually, I think it probably is the worst. And even though it has some redeeming features, it has some qualities about it that are good. Like, for example, I really like the spicy opening. It has this blood orange, cardamom, ginger thing going on in the opening with LME. That's nice. And I like the mixture of the cacao and the tobacco absolute. I like the idea. I like the concept. There is frankincense in here. Of course, it's an Amouage. There should be frankincense. But what you start to smell, and very strongly, and for the first time in an Amouage, at least that where it jumps out to my nose and almost assaults the nose, is those amber woods. The amber woods are very strong in this fragrance. And, you know, if this were put out by another niche house for $350, I wouldn't give them a pass. So I'm not going to give Amouage a pass either. To me, this is where my association with the brand basically died. Okay, at least blind buying. All right, I would love to smell the new Royal Tobacco or whatever they're paying. I would love to smell that. I'm not going to buy it though. They've lost my trust, just like the House of Creed lost my trust. I could have easily put the House of Creed on here too. They have a bunch of fragrances that could have made this list because of the way that they are in their modern formula, their modern formulation. Like what you go to the store right now and buy from the House of Creed is a travesty. To my nose, it has been completely butchered. That beautiful, sparkly ambergris dry down, even if it was fake, even if it was, you know, even if 10, 20, 30 years ago they weren't using real ambergris, they were able to create the impression of this sparkly, fresh ambergris. And that's one of the reasons I think I struggle with freshies is, you know, that Creed did fresh fragrances like no one else. And the fact that they have gone so far off course for them, which really says something, it makes me, you know, just disconnected from the brand. Like, I will never buy a new Creed, ever, period. I probably will never buy a new Amouage. Would I like to own that Royal Tobacco? Sure. Would I pay for it? No. They've lost my trust. Even if it's a great fragrance, they've lost my trust. And this is the fragrance that did it for me. This is the fragrance that my mind slowly started to change on Amouage. And it had to do with the new creative director and everything that was going on. And it's nothing against him. I actually really like him as a person. I heard him speak multiple times on Persilase's channel. And as a person, I really like him. But I don't think he's the right man to lead Amouage. I think Amouage made a huge mistake in getting rid of Christopher Chong or not renewing his contract or whatever happened there. They should have fallen head over heels for themselves to do everything they can to keep him, because he was the glue that held the House of Amouage together. And this is where I'm really seeing it start to fall apart. It's sad for me to say that, but that's how I truly feel, because I love the House of Amouage, but I love their old stuff. And, you know, they've gone in a new direction, unfortunately, and this is where I really kind of accepted that. I was hoping that Meander and Enclave were like, you know, I was hoping they were, like just little hiccups until he got his feet under him. I was hoping that the flanker thing was just like a one-time thing. Then they did flankers of everything. That's the other thing that pissed me off. They did Epic 53, Interlude 74, all this bullshit. And granted, I'm sure those fragrances are amazing. The prices are outrageous for those fragrances. And again, it seems like a little bit of a cop-out of giving up, you know, of doing something you already did. You already made Epic. You know, why do you have to make it again? Why do you have to sell it again at double the price or whatever it is? You should be innovating and trying new stuff, and you're not. You're living off of your name, which is the same thing that Creed did, and both of these houses are basically in the shitter. I think Creed is more in the shitter. I think Amouage, you know, they've got a chance maybe to redeem themselves. But when I hear rumors about stuff like Fate being discontinued, Fate Man and Fate Woman, you know, they never discontinued fragrances before. They used to keep everything, their whole lineup, whether it was selling or not. I mean, because they were about the artistry of fragrance. They weren't about just trying to pimp what sells. So that's my take on it. That's one of the reasons why I hate this fragrance. Not because the fragrance is terrible, because it's not. Again, none of these are terrible fragrances. It's not like it's a garbage fragrance. It's all about, you know, where you are in your journey. If you've never smelled any niche before, you might smell Boundless and think it's the most amazing thing in the world. But for me, you know, those amber woods and the it just doesn't it doesn't hold up to the high bar that Amouage set for me. Let's put it that way. I would much rather wear Myths or Journeyman or, you know, some of those others that feel more like an Amouage. This could be issued nowadays by, you could find something like this from any brand. I mean, Sense of Wood that do these dark fragrances. This just doesn't feel like an Amouage. And so it could be a Gucci, it could be anything. What makes this an Amouage? Amouage used to be Amouage. It used to be a house. It used to stand for something, and they've lost that. They've lost their way, basically. And, I mean, maybe the new creative director just had an impossible job. How do you follow a genius like Christopher Chong? How? I mean, how do you follow those shoes? He may have had an impossible ask. Maybe this is what the owners of Amouage want. Maybe they want them to start doing flankers to death. And, you know, niche flankers are they're kind of a topic that is tough to tread on anyways, because, you know, a niche house should be doing something original and unique, and a niche house making a flanker, you know, that was what designers did. The niche houses were supposed to put out bold fragrances. When you're making a flanker like Viking and Viking Cologne with Creed, you know, the first Viking from 2017 I liked. Viking Cologne is just, I mean, it's awful. And, you know, some of the flankers that we're seeing from the designer houses like Abbey Rouge, L'Instinct, we're getting terrible flankers. Why is Amouage doing flankers? Why? You know what I mean? So that's kind of my beef with the brand in a nutshell. And finally, again, this goes back to price-quality ratio, whatever you want to call it. This is from the house of Kilian. And from the house of Kilian, this is a fragrance that's called Straight to Heaven Extreme. So the coolest thing about this fragrance is probably the box. Sorry about the fingerprints, but it's like a fingerprint magnet. It does have this little key that actually locks the box. Oh, well, I thought it locked the box. Let's see. Now it's not going to lock. Hang on. Okay, there you go. Box is locked. So it has this little ridiculous key, and then you can unlock the box. Ooh, well, that's worth $500. And so again, that's my beef with the with the niche houses. This is 50 mils. Now this is discontinued, so I could probably at least get my money back if I wanted to. But Straight to Heaven Extreme is a boozy patchouli fragrance. That's basically what it is. It's a boozy patchouli fragrance with some vanilla and nutmeg. It dries down to this vanilla cedar wood thing. And I mean, does it smell 2022? This came out in 2017, but that 2022 niche dry down that just kind of smells, you know, synthetic, vanillic dry down. You know, obviously I like the rum note. I like boozy fragrances to a point. I mentioned Idole de Luban and Eau de Toilette, which is discontinued. That's a boozy fragrance I really like. I do like Roja's Creation E or Enigma Parfum for Men, Pour Homme. I like that fragrance. I think it's a good fragrance. But, you know, this for $500, again, seems like a rip. Is the bottle cool? I guess. Is 50 mils for $500 worth it? No, it feels like, again, we're being sold, you know. Should I have gotten the refill? Yes, I absolutely should have gotten the refill. That was half price. And if they can sell the refill at half price, probably it's a tenth of the price they could be selling it for, because most of the money spent is probably on packaging and not the juice itself. You know what I mean? That's the way that I feel about some of these niche houses. And is the presentation cool? Yes. I mean, would it look good on my shelf? You notice you never even see this up there. I usually just keep it away because it kind of makes me angry looking at it. Because I feel like I was sold, you know, I was sold something like this cheap ass key, you know. So that's my take. That's 5 fragrances that I used to like that now I kind of hate, that I purchased. You notice they're all niche. So that gives you an idea of what I think of the industry nowadays, and why I'm going and buying stuff like this. This is probably way more interesting than all the shit these niche houses are doing nowadays. Probably more creative, more time was spent, more, even the quality of the materials of these old fragrances might even be better. You know, they don't have these synthetic, they didn't have 1,001 synthetics back then like they do today. And so, you know, that's one of the reasons why my heart is in the past with fragrances, to be honest with you. I hate to say it, but that's really the only way I can say it. And that's the reason why this whole list is niche. And I know I could sell them and recoup my money and do something else with it, but I don't like to sell fragrances. I like to stick with them and keep learning about them. And sometimes I'll force myself to wear this. Even if I'm not impressed by it, I'll force myself to wear it to get to know it more. And I'll do full reviews on all these. Every single fragrance you see, my plan is to do a full review one day. It's going to take a while. But, and I've been doing sample reviews because the sample, I'll use it and toss it and probably never get my nose on it again. So I want to put my thoughts on paper or on the video in this case. So yes, that's kind of my idea. You will get full reviews on these at some point where I go into more depth, but let me know if you agree with my list of 5 plus my bonus video, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye, guys.